Let's get the latest with Scott Heidler joining us from Chiang Mai in neighbouring Thailand. Scott, so it looks like the arrests are continuing. We've had more leadership from the NLD arrested overnight.
Marlene, yes, absolutely. And as we just heard, one of the top advisors to Aung San Suu Kyi has been arrested early Friday morning, and that he was actually able to place a few phone calls as the police were taking him. So that is confirmed. So that is concerning because the net that the police are casting is growing wider. And obviously that's raising concern inside Myanmar, not just with those connected to the NLD party, but also to citizens. But what's interesting as well, here in neighboring Thailand, this is the largest expat community for people from Myanmar in the world. And that concern is growing here, and the communities here are very concerned about what's happening next door. So we spoke with some of them. Praying for peace and serenity in the Thai city, long known as a hub for Myanmar's diaspora. Through decades of conflict and military coups, migrants, dissidents, and ethnic fighters have found their way to Chiang Mai. So when Myanmar's elected leadership was ousted in Monday's coup, it cut deep into the community here. Hung Kwang was there in 1962 when the military first took power away from a civilian government. He later became a soldier in a Kachin ethnic army. For 10 years, he fought the military for autonomy. With his experience, he thinks violence is not the solution now, and political pressure should come from people like him.
I am worried about my countrymen back in Myanmar, not just my relatives. The military may be in power for many years to come. I do not support violent protests in the cities. Burmese people abroad should play a big role. They don't have to live in fear from the Burmese military.
Chiang Mai has unique history and culture different from the rest of Thailand. And that's possibly why so many ethnic groups that have crossed the western border have decided to settle here. But it's difficult for them to stay connected to their communities in Myanmar. San Muang Mongong runs a migrant radio network. It was formed 25 years ago in Chiang Mai to keep the many migrants from Myanmar informed. The network has been reporting on the coup since the first hours of the takeover. A lot of the listeners were shocked and worried.
I have to keep my listeners updated on the situation. They need information to make decisions. People are worried. They are concerned about the future.
A show of solidarity in front of the Chiang Mai Myanmar consulate. A nighttime gathering of anti-coup protesters, Thais and migrants making themselves heard. This in support of those who put themselves in danger by going out on the streets in Myanmar to denounce the coup. And Marlene, those protests like that we saw here in Chiang Mai are growing around the world as obviously as they are on the streets in Myanmar. But what's interesting now, there are a couple of, symbols for this anti-coup protest movement has started around the world as well as inside Myanmar. And that is that they're singing the same song. This is a song, we're told, a pro-democracy song, sung to put to the tune of Dust in the Wind. We've heard it here, we heard it in Chiang Mai, we hear it on the streets of Myanmar, and it's interesting. So that is becoming kind of the anthem of this movement, if you will. But I guess the symbol would be people out there banging pots, and that happened here as well. So I think we'll see that start to grow around the world as people show their support, demonstrate their support for what's happening for the protest movement in Myanmar. Because obviously, when they go out to the streets in Myanmar, they're putting their safety, their freedom at risk.
Scott, many thanks for that update. Scott Heidler there for